The Secret Sauce in partner with Thai Institute of Directors IOD present Boardroom Wisdom
วันนี้ The Secret Sauce นะครับ Boardroom Wisdom เราอยู่ที่บริษัท Indorama Ventures นักลงทุนจะรู้จักในชื่อ IVL ถือได้ว่าเป็นบริษัทระดับโลกอย่างแท้จริงนะครับที่โตบโตที่ประเทศไทยเลยทำเกี่ยวกับปิโตรเคมีน่าสนใจมากนะครับผมอยู่กับพี่บอยกุลเวศสวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับเคนครับ
คือต้องอย่างที่บอกเมื่อกี้ว่าจริงๆ IVL หลายคนเนี่ยถ้าเกิดว่าไม่ได้เป็นนักลงทุนอาจจะไม่ค่อยคุ้นแต่จริงๆ Product ของเขาเนี่ยเป็นลักษณะทำแบบ B2B เนาะทำเมล็ดพลาสติก PET หรือว่าทำพวกไฟเบอร์จริงๆอยู่ในชีวิตประจำวันเราหมดเลยง่ายๆสุดก็คือขวดพลาสติกที่เราดื่มน้ำนะครับหรือว่ายางรถยนต์เสื้อผ้าเป็นลักษณะแบบ business แบบว่า midstream นะครับ downstream แล้วก็มี upstream ด้วยคือเป็นทั้ง supply chain เลยก็เป็น business ที่มันใหญ่ขนาดไหนครับอันนี้ที่พี่บอยใหญ่มาก
โอ้โหมันใหญ่มากมันเป็นบริษัทที่มีโรงงานอยู่ทั่วโลกเนี่ย120โรงงานนะครับอยู่20กว่าประเทศ
ใน5ทวีป
5ทวีปนะครับอันนี้นี่คือเขาเป็นเจ้าแห่งตลาดของ PET เลยนะครับที่น่าสนใจก็คือว่าบริษัทไทยไปโตที่ต่างประเทศได้อย่างไรแล้วคณะกรรมการนะครับซึ่งมีทั้งหมด16คนเคน
ครับ
ซึ่ง16คนเนี่ย7จาก16เนี่ยเป็นคนไทยแล้วก็7จาก16เนี่ยเป็นกรรมการอิสระเนี่ยเขามีบทบาทอย่างไรในการผลักดันให้บริษัทไทยๆของเราเนี่ยไปเติบโตที่ต่างประเทศได้อย่างประสบความสำเร็จ
ใช่แล้วก็กลยุทธ์ของเขาน่าสนใจนะครับสำหรับทุกผู้ฟังทุกท่านเพราะว่าวิธีการเติบโตของเขามันก้าวกระโดดเป็น exponential จริงๆด้วยการทำ M&A นะครับใช้เรื่องของ scale ใช้เรื่องของการควบคุมต้นทุนการควบคุม cost การควบคุม supply chain ทั้งหมดนั้นวิธีคิดต่างๆเนี่ยบอกได้เลยอย่างที่พี่บอยบอกเป็น global player เล่นใน global scale แล้วก็คิดแบบ global mindset จริง
ๆแล้วตะกี้ที่เคนพูดคำว่า M&A ปุ๊บเนี่ยมันมากันเรื่องของเงิน
ครับ
มันเป็นความเสี่ยง
ครับ
บอร์ดมีหน้าที่อย่างไรในการที่จะช่วย management ดูว่าคิดครบแล้วยังตรงนี้มันเสี่ยงยังไงตรงนี้แหละครับมันเป็นเรื่องสำคัญและเป็นเรื่องที่บริษัททั่วไปเนี่ยอาจจะอยากฟังว่าเฮ้ยการเป็นบอร์ดในระดับ global เนี่ยเขาช่วยตัว management อย่างไรนะครับในการ expand หรือขยายธุรกิจ
ที่สำคัญที่สุดครับบอร์ดกับ CEO คุยกันยังไงเรื่อง sustainability อย่าลืมครับธุรกิจของเขาเป็นธุรกิจที่เกี่ยวข้องกับพลาสติกแม้ว่าจะเป็น PET เองก็ตามทีแต่การกระโดดเข้าไปใน circular economy ตั้งแต่หลายปีก่อนหรือว่าการที่เขาคอนเซิร์นมากเรื่องความยั่งยืนพยายามปรับเปลี่ยน supply chain เขาโน้มน้าวกันยังไงภายในบอร์ดรวมทั้งเขา action อย่างไรเพื่อความยั่งยืนในธุรกิจแห่งอนาคตในธุรกิจปิโตรเคมีแหละที่หลายคนบางคนอาจจะมองว่าเฮ้ยเป็นธุรกิจที่ไม่ค่อยแน่นอนเป็นคอมมอดิตี้ที่ขึ้นอยู่กับเทรนด์ต่างๆแล้วเทรนด์ของโลกร้อนมันกำลังมาขนาดนี้เนี่ยเขาปรับตัวอย่างไรเขาคุยกันอย่างไรผมต้องบอกว่าตอนนี้เป็นตอนที่เราถือว่าได้รับเกียรติมากนะครับแล้วก็คุยกันในระดับที่เป็น global scale จริงๆนะครับลองไปฟังดูครับ Thank you for having us. Indorama Ventures is a leading multinational company. Right, you are number one in the PET market. However, I think you are not so of a household product. So maybe few of our listeners might not be familiar with Indorama Ventures. So first of all, can you give us some business overview to our listeners?
Sure. So thank you first. Welcome. So IVL, as you said, is a B2B business. But what would surprise many of your listeners is that perhaps 90% of our products, they touch that product every day in their life.
Closer than you think.
It's very close to what you do. So in terms of course, beverage, the plastic bottles are made from IVL material. Quite a few of them. 1 out of 5 bottles in the world is made from our product. And we have an entire integrated value chain in that. Then the fibers, so athletic wear, golf shirts, that's also made from our product, polyester. Going to, on the hygiene side, diapers, feminine care products, wipes, masks. Quite a few of these things are made from IVL products. And in your durable sector, you have the automotive. So the tires are made from IVL yarns. The airbags are made from IVL yarns. The seats, the So I mean, you come in touch with IVL products
Every day.
practically every day.
Right. So but can you tell us more about your business units that you operate in, such as PET, integrated oxides, fibers, and so on?
So as a company, we have grown over the last 30 years. We started 30 years in Bangkok, in Thailand, and started with one unit. And today we have 120 plants globally, and I think it's 34 countries, 25,000 people, and practically it's 1/3 in Americas, 1/3 in Europe, and 1/3 in Asia. So quite geographically diversified, which is quite resilient for us. So normally one would associate some crisis in some countries, but since we are quite diversified, we are able to better manage our risk.
คุณอโลกครับ It's very refreshing to see a Thai company being so a global player. What is the name of the game? What does it take for a company like you to be global player? And this game, what is the success factor in growing bigger and bigger?
This game can be played by anyone. It's not the Loya family or Indorama family. It just depends on your vision and how you want to look at risk. I got my inspiration in 97 crisis when a lot of my friends, they got busted in the Tom Yam Goong crisis. That's when I thought that we were lucky in that time because we were an exporter. So when the baht devalued to half the value, our cost came down and our dollars were getting... So we were a lucky company. It wasn't by design. But since then, we have been building IVL by design. So I didn't want to get caught on the wrong side of the crisis. So we started looking at international expansion, not to have all the eggs in one basket. And I would say this idea, this philosophy also came from my father. We had 3 brothers, and he asked me to come to Thailand from Indonesia. I have a brother in India, a brother in Indonesia, and I was sent to Thailand. And my father was very clear. He said, let's not keep all the eggs in one basket. Plus, he also said, when I came in 1988, we were only in textile-related business. He said, I'll go and see if you can find a chemical or non-textile related business. So diversify your products and diversify your regions.
So the name of the game is diversification of risk.
And therefore, you said, what is the success? The success. So that is a vision. You have to have a vision. Obviously, the success is people. So as you grow, as you become bigger, how do you manage? How do you execute? No one man can do everything.
Right.
And if you don't have the right people, then again, you may not succeed. So the success factor is all 99% people.
Okay. But you have both a vertical and horizontal diversifications. So I am interested in how were the major decisions made in each move, about diversification. You consolidate the whole process of supply chain, and you have many factories in around the world. So can you explain more about diversification?
So I think about today, about 70% of our business is cyclical. In a cyclical business, scale is very important, and integration is very important, because the name of the game is cost. So we talked about diversification, geographical diversification, people, but finally, in a commodity, in a cyclical business, it's all about cost. And to get the better cost, the more value that you capture of the value chain, you have more resilience. So step by step, as our balance sheet allowed us, and as opportunities came along, we integrated our businesses. So even though today you may think of us as very diversified, but we are very focused. Everything is revolving around PET. PET is a core. We went upstream making PTA. We also made some paraxylene. We went downstream making packaging. We have a joint venture with Samsung in Thailand. We have a joint venture with Coke in Philippines. And then for the last 8-9 years, we are in recycling. So we are completing the loop. And one of the other raw material for polyester is MEG, which is our IOD business. Polyester also goes into fibers. So that's our fiber value chain. So PET value chain, fiber value chain, and olefin value chain. All are linked, so it's very focused.
I think one of the key strategies of Indorama Ventures is merger and acquisition, right? So in 2019, you made the largest and the most strategic acquisition to purchase the asset of Huntsman, right? So what were the reasons behind each move?
So as a company, we have many stakeholders. And one is your people, your employees. But even our shareholders is an important stakeholder. And we have to create value for our shareholders. How do you create value for your shareholder? You create value by growth. That's the M&A strategy. You also create value by having an expertise and leadership in your business. So we have expertise in, prior to Huntsman's IOD business, our leadership was in PET and fiber. We also had an IOD business, but which was very small. And that is where our expertise was not as strong as we have it in PET and fibers. When the opportunity to buy IOD business from Huntsman came along, it's a very good fit to our business. Part of that business makes MEG. MEG is our raw material. So that was a straight fit. Plus, you make more money downstream of anything. So in the IOD business of Huntsman, we have the surfactants business. And the surfactants business is, even during the COVID times, it's quite resilient. It goes into your shampoos, into your detergents. So it's quite a resilient business. And it's a HVA, high value add business. So we could expand our IOD business. Like I did not say that, but now we have 3 businesses. About 50% of our business is PET related. About 20%, 17-18% is fiber, and the rest, 30 plus, is IOD. So to be able to continue to grow our firm, as we get saturated in PET, we are a global leader by far. And the new avenues for growth for us is now established through the third leg of IOD. And we are also in the best market for IOD. We are in the US, which has a shale advantage, large consumption center. So we are in the right market with the business that we love to have. That's why it's strategic. And we can grow that business. So the next 10 years of cash flow, let's say we have disposable cash flow of $5 billion. All that $5 billion can go into IOD. So we still have a revenue of growth for the foreseeable future.
What's the next S-curve after this IOD?
It's too early to say. I think we are working on this decade now. The last 3 decades have been quite good for IVL. Each decade we grew, and I think now we have put us in the right stages for growth in this coming decade. Where we are now investing mostly is in our infrastructure. For the next couple of years, we are investing quite heavily in our systems, our processes, in one single ERP globally. Because over the last 10 years, let's say, we've been very busy acquiring stuff. And we left them independently to manage as per their previous process. But now we have the scale, and we want to leverage on our best practices. Whatever we pick up from each of these sites, we want to standardize it across IVL and put them on the one platform of one ERP, so that once you have that data, then you can leverage on that data. So I think the next 2 or 3 years is fully devoted to creating organic growth in that sense, growth of EBITDA, growth of bottom line, and the quality of earning.
So the next S curve is not about new product, but it's about aligning the process. And what about people? You mentioned that people are very
Key
important
success.
part, and you've been acquiring, and which means that you take over not only new operation but new culture. And how do you manage people, which is your greatest asset when you keep on acquiring?
Because you have been part of the growth story.
Start at the beginning. I think we already have the culture of accepting diversity. We accept different group of people to join the company. I think as the company grow, we have more and more people joining us. I think there used to be some stereotype about certain race, okay, but time will prove. I think and IVL is a living proof. We have proof for the past, I think, decades or 2 decades that we have been different group of people, and we have never had a problem of racial in our group at all. And as we keep acquiring more and more company, we also recruit quite a lot of good people from our target company and merge into our our present IVL.
Just to add to that, I would say that I've been very fortunate with people, and I'm very hard or harsh also with my people. But our people know that number one, there's no politics, and number two, they know that all my needs and all my ask is for the health of IVL, and the health of IVL is also what they believe in. So they know the purpose. As long as you have the purpose correct, it's not political and it's not selfish. So everybody comes along.
So in terms of merger and acquisition, you mentioned about best practice. So it will be helpful for our listeners who want to scale up their business, their company, by this strategic move. So can you share our listener about best practice, how to do something like Indorama Ventures? What is your criteria?
Good CEO.
Yeah, I think people is number one, and then the passion, the purpose. As long as you have your vision and mission and your values correctly placed, and your people believe in those values, you will get there. I think that is a key point. And then what is most important is credibility, which you build, and the trust that you have with your stakeholders. So in my case, even let's say in COVID, if I take the recent example, in February already I started talking to my key lenders and my key clients, explaining to them how this may affect IVL. Fortunately, we were less impacted, but everybody understands when you have an unusual event like COVID, or you had the 2008 crisis or the 97 crisis, as long as you communicate. So I think communication is the key. Benchmark and all this, we are hardworking people. So I think all that is part of the process.
Perhaps transparency is another quality that becomes a proud culture in IVL. I think we are quite transparent, and to a newcomer or even to all of our stakeholders, we are very, very transparent.
Apart from COVID-19, currently being in a petrochemical industry, what are the main challenges, such as a trade war, uncertainty, crisis of global economy, negative GDP growth, or something like that?
All these are normal every day. This year or last year or the next year. These are challenges that we face every day, and that's why you build a very strong cost, and you build strong processes. You build strong relationship with your clients, and build trust, communication, and a strong balance sheet. So these things are always going to come. And our board members make sure that I don't overexpand.
Talking about strong relationship with customers, IVL, the product itself is, I would say it looks like a commodity. It's a commodity to me. So, and commodity, you can get trapped in the pricing trap. So how do you manage the relationship with the customer and escape that kind of trap?
Slowly. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, and nor was IVL. So we started with 20,000 tons of PET annually, and today we produce 6 million tons of PET. And the same customers, I'll give you a lesson I learned. In 2003, we went to USA. Our first overseas investment was in the US. And it was making 50,000 tons of PET, which is like 1% of what we do today. So I thought it's only 50,000 tons, the market is 3 million tons. How difficult will it be to sell? And we are a good operator, we are good DNA on cost, so we'll succeed. For the first quarter after I acquired, we acquired on 1st April 2003. In the first quarter, I did not sell more than 10%. It was more like sample.
Oh, yeah.
So then one of my customers was frank with me, and he told me, Alok, you make a visit every month to me, and I'm very rude to you in the sense I don't promise to buy anything from you. The reason being that you only make 50,000 tons, and I consume, that customer consumed at that time 500,000 tons. So America is, big companies. There are 5 people who consume 80% of the product. He said, for my 500,000 tons, even if you sold me 100% of your output, which you probably won't, it's not enough for me to leverage against my existing suppliers. So that was a lesson that scale is very important in the commodity business. Scale and integration.
Scale and integration.
So the first one is cost, you mentioned earlier. Now scale and integration. Okay.
But look at 2020 in financial figures. I'm not sure, probably maybe you can not deliver earning targets, something like that, because any company is very struggle in this difficult time, right? So what steps are you taking?
The first was safety of our people. And we started having daily calls amongst the senior management to ensure that our people are safe, and we put the right practices of work from home, not travel policy. So that was the first thing, keep our people safe. And the second point was talk to our customers on their impact, because very soon we realized that our production is not impacted. What was important is that if our customers' business is impacted, then we get impacted. But again, some 80% of our products are resilient. They are non-durable. So our industry is such where the supply chain continues. And since we control quite a major part of our supply chain ourselves, we were not impacted. I think I spoke to my CFO that in case on our finances, One of the risks was whether our customers would be able to pay us on time, not only buy the product, but whether they are going to have banking problems or liquidity problems. So we started talking to our customers even more to make sure that they don't delay payments to us. And our finance department made sure that they had enough liquidity. So generally we have a liquidity of $1.5 to $1.7 billion. Today we have a liquidity of $2.7 billion. So we increase our liquidity. So correct liquidity, correct S&OP planning, correct management with our receivables.
คุณรัตเทียนนะครับ What are the main challenges today? You are one of a member of Sustainability and Risk Management Committee. In your view, what is the main challenges and how to handle this situation?
I think the main challenge of the board is similar to what Alok just said. We always focus on the succession plan. I think we have a very good strategy so far. We know how to do the process re-engineering to improve our efficiency, to optimize our cost. But finally, because I think most of the management is start to 60 and above, so it's about time to think about the next batch of people who's going to run this company. So this is what I mean. The independent directors, we also have a separate meeting without the management and all come up with the same idea that this is the most important things. But so far, we look at, as Alok said, we have done pretty good at the right direction.
What have you done to prepare for that?
Oh, a lot. So since 2019, we made the first executive committee, which we call Indorama Management Council. We inducted 2 senior professionals, one American and one Italian, one as CHRO and one as CSO, Chief Strategy Officer. And these guys have worked for multinationals, big, large multinationals. So they came on board, and then immediately, side by side, we made the second council of what we call Indorama Business Council, which has 50 members. These are all the 50 people who manage our businesses globally. So now we have a formalized structure of key management and operating management. Key management meets once a month. During COVID, it's meeting once a week. But normally it's supposed to meet once a month. And once a quarter, we meet with IBC. And the meeting with IBC is not about results. It's about future ready. So the whole discussion is, okay, what are the enabling roles we should have? So the IBC came out with 6 enabling roles in the beginning of this year. And those are communication, digital, EHS, lean, sustainability, and business continuity. So 6 enabling rules that go across IVL, so that the businesses can, concentrate and focus on day-to-day operations, and the enablers can help them with best-in-class management.
I have heard that you stepped into circular economy or sustainability strategy since 2011, something like that.
Right.
But current trend on ban of plastic or global warming has been booming and more, right? So what is your sustainability strategies from now on?
It's to get to carbon neutrality by a certain time. So how do you become carbon neutral? So one of the things we may have to do is we may have to stop our coal-fired power plants, which means to replace that with renewable feedstock or natural gas, which has a lower carbon footprint. The returns are longer. Normally we invest in businesses with a 5-year return, but if you get into these carbon neutral technologies, the returns may come in 10-15 years. So as a company, we are prepared for it. I think the biggest thing for Asian companies, including ours, is that there's a big family influence, as you know. So as a family, we are long-term investors in the company. We are managing for the long term, not for the quarter.
sustainability
Yeah. So for us, we are very happy to make that investment.
To be more sustainable, I think it takes a lot of effort. You have to invest more and more, hiring dedicated team, setting new team to do in this way.
That's what it is.
Is it worth the effort?
Yeah. So the 6 enabling functions, one of them is sustainability. And who is the leader of that? My own son. So it's a family member leading that sustainability. And that can be, in my mind, my son is very passionate about sustainability. So if you have the passion, you have the idea, people behind it, and we have a lot of room to improve our sustainability goals. So he can be busy for quite a bit of time.
So can you share your best practice for any companies they want to pursue this sustainability? I have talked to many executives, business leaders. Everyone knows that it's really important, and everyone said to me that it's really hard to do. So can you share your best practice of IVL?
The best practice is, number one, have the organization. So it all will differ from company to company. We are a very global company, 120 plants all over the world. So we have to build an organization which is strong enough to standardize our needs across our plants globally. So that's the first thing that Yash is doing. He's building our organization, and this organization is not being told top down. I mean, we are supporting it from top, but it's come from the IBC. So whatever he needs, if he needs 10 people, and every site manager, because our carbon footprint comes from each production center. So every site has to be a member of that sustainability journey. The benchmark is that because we are an international company and we have multiple technologies, we have a good understanding of which technology is the best in terms of lower carbon footprint. For instance, I give you another example. PET, if you make it across 4 companies, there are 4 steps to making PET. Then the carbon footprint will be X. Whereas we have sites where we make everything, all the steps within one site. Take Decatur, Alabama. Decatur, Alabama, we make paraxylene, we make PIA, we make PTA, we make PET. And MEG comes from our own site by barge. So it has the lowest carbon footprint. And that PET would be the lowest carbon PET. And we can offset the carbon by some biorenewable energy for which you can get credit. So the PET we sell from that site can be carbon neutral PET, which has a lot of appeal to our brand owners.
Okay.
All the FMCG companies.
It sounds like a win-win
Yeah, it's a win-win.
approach.
And it costs a little bit more, but I'm sure my customers will support it. And like that, we have 4 sites in the world. So we have Decatur, Alabama, we have Rotterdam, we have Spain, and we have Matapot. So we have 4 sites where we can make this very low carbon PET.
As a global company perspective, you are very big players, right? So what is the future of petrochemical industry in the next 5 years?
I think it will grow by about 5% per annum. You can't do away with petrochemical. And why would you want to do away with petrochemical? You just make it cleaner.
Cleaner.
That's all. But everything in this room has used petrochemical in its final There's nothing in this room that did not use a petrochemical product. So, I mean, petrochemical, without petrochemical, you'll slow down yourself. You'll go back to the ice age. So petrochemical, there's no doubt about petrochemicals. And it's just about responsible manufacturing, responsible consumption, and responsible disposal. So we all have to do our part, even as a consumer. What do we do with our waste? How do we dispose it? So if we do it responsibly, it will stay in the environment, in the sense it will stay back into the circular economy. So without petrochemical, life would be very tough. So it grows. For PET, for instance, in 2016, PET constituted 50% of packaging material. The packaging material by 2030, packaging material will grow by, in 15 years, it is expected to double. And part of PET will become 56%. So the packaging will double, and PET will become 56%, whereas 2 years ago it was only 50%. I mean, as population grows, consumption will grow, affluency will bring more consumption.
And what do you see IVL in the future?
IVL will be a leading, so today our vision is that we'll be a leading chemical company. Now we are more and more talking that we'll be a leading sustainable company. So we are dropping the word chemical and replacing it with sustainable. We are number 28 in the world of chemicals in the world, and I think within this decade we'll be in the top 20.
We living in a very difficult time. Right? As I said before, every company is struggling. So what are your suggestions or recommendations for companies that operating and surviving in this uncertain future?
First of all, you need a very good communication. This is very important, especially present day, because of the fake news and all those of confusion all over. So first of all, you have to make a very clear message. And to running a company, I think liquidity is very important. Yes, you see so many government printing money, but how long could it go? So the best way is to make sure to have a very good planning on the liquidity. It keeps changing, so you should be a sensing officer as well, in the sense that you have to sense what is going to change. You have you might have to see whether there is any strategic inflection point coming in, or how it would impact the company. And that, I think that's a part that I don't have much concern in. The three parts are very what IVR has done so far. You may add.
I think it depends on where you are in your corporate history. As you know, big firms most likely will be better off. But the smaller firms are the ones who will have more difficulty. That's where Konratin is saying that transparency, honesty, trust, liquidity management, all that is what they should be open about. And if you have to dilute yourself, you have to dilute yourself. I mean, you cannot have the cake and eat it too. Not all the time, at least.
But in individuals,
you need to have hunger. When you're starting off, you need to have the hunger.
Very clear.
And that's why families don't go from second to third to fourth generation. Because as you become affluent, you become too comfortable, and your hunger goes down.
We just want to understand how the board of directors and the CEO work together, right? So if we want to flash back to maybe 10 years ago or even 5 years ago and right now, because you have been here for quite a while. Can you reflect, Kun Morotian, on what's the difference between the board working with the CEO? Was it different 10 years ago,
changed?
5 years ago, and right now, or it's all the same?
Over time, we gain more trust with each other. That's the most important part. When you start to do anything together, you might trust, but the level of trust will keep increasing as time goes by because the way we interact, the transparency we have with each other, that's what makes the difference between 10 years ago and now.
What about you, Kun Alok?
You know, even Mauritian may not know this exactly, but when I started 30 years ago, I already had 2 independent members on my board as a private company.
Okay.
And one of the independent member was the chairman of the company. And he was the first president of the SCT, Kun Sukri Kauchar.
Oh, many years
And he's a very tough chap. Very, very tough chap. So governance, he taught me governance. I did not understand what he meant by governance because as a family, my father always taught me values. So we always wanted to do the right thing in any case. But in the world of corporate, how to translate that meaning into the corporate meaning, he was helping me. I give you an example. He said, Alok, we need to have an auditor, and we need to do audit, internal audit. So I said, fine. So I told my staff, let's get an internal auditor. Internal auditor, but from externally. So they went to India, got a junior internal auditor. And in those days in India, in our minds, for a small company, internal audit meant transaction audit. And then we gave the report to Kun Sukri, and Kun Sukri said, no, I want management audit. So I learned on the...
Okay.
learned with my chairman, learned with my board, learned with the independent directors.
What are the hardest parts from that day and now to grow?
You know, my first difficulty was to groom my own management team because my management team was all from India. And very, very much after profit. It was all about profit, short-term profit. Because we didn't have much capital. We had to make our capital through performance. And therefore, in their minds, in my senior management mind, they were not cutting corners. But from Kun Sukri or my chairman or my other independent director was Kun Apisak. So basically Kun Apisak and Kun Sukri, both are too straight. Too straight means very straight.
Okay.
Very rigid. and my management used to tell me, why do we have to make so many forms and so many it's taking away a lot of time.
Okay.
In the long term, that's what.
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
What are the standard processes of board of IVL? I mean, working relationships, are you working more closely in the past few years, something like that? The board culture?
You know, from our side, we provide the information regularly to the board members. And Mauritian is also the lead independent director. So many a times when something urgent comes up, I give him a call directly and then ask him to socialize that within the independent directors. I may be traveling, it may be very urgent. Instead of calling 8 members, so that's very easy for me. I have to explain to Mauritian, and then he can take it to the rest of the directors, and then we can get the feedback very quickly. So I think this process of lead independent director is very, very good. And I believe the independent directors meet a few times a year. Plus, we also have the nomination committee meeting twice a year. We have the risk management committee meeting twice a year. So we meet fairly often with each other.
Lead independent director is not a common term in Thailand, not yet. Not many company has this role. This is the role where the chairman and the CEO might be the same person or might be related. And in this case, the chairman and the CEO are brothers, right? With that, it is like to have someone that is independent to act like a check and balance for that. That is a good place to ask you right now. As a role of lead independent directors, what do you do? And do you find it challenging or it's just business as usual for you?
I think it's business as usual because we get good cooperation from the management. So you don't see any problem. But what we have to communicate to the independent director is to listen for the logic of the management. In every company, you have to accept the fact that most of the directors are risk averse, okay, and mostly the management are risk taker. So we have to understand the logic, and what we have to do is to quantify the risk and what is the downside should anything happen, and then we discuss. So the management will come up with different scenario, and to see what is the comfortable level that it can be done. But since we have worked for many years, it becomes a routine. So
You should ask him, does the board approve every management proposal?
I was going to ask that. I was going to say that. I was going to ask if you have ever said no.
I mean, apart from the smaller ones, at least two
Big one.
big ones.
Is it possible to use some example of that? Can you disclose that the situation?
One was an M&A related, so we can't name the company,
Okay.
but one was M&A, and there was a sort of a pushback. Not really a pushback. Even I have changed how I bring business to the board now. Many times my management wants to do something, and instead of me making that decision, I say, let's go to the board. So I bring it to the board, and while the management is discussing that, then I'm also listening to it. And then if the board is asking tough questions, then I withdraw that. Because I agree sort of. I'm also not sure whether it's the right thing to do or not.
Okay.
But I don't want to disappoint my management, so I let the management explain it. And then if the board is also not comfortable, then we take it out.
If there is a big decision, like a big M&A that involve lots of investment, how many board meeting does it take, or what kind of discussion does it take for you as a CEO to engage all the board, especially independent directors, to really understand and make the logic out of that?
You know, in M&A, you cannot take 3 years to decide. It has to be done in 3 months maximum. Because the M&A is not waiting for you as the only buyer. There are other buyers out there. So there's an extra effort
make it
put
quick.
from both sides. We have to provide enough information to the directors, and the directors have to spend extra time understanding, asking questions.
But somehow Kunalok always prep the board. I would say prep the board. He will give us certain guideline that what he is thinking and planning to do this during the process. So he actually engaged board quite early at the beginning. So board, that's why board has time to explore the other area and come up with the question or some concept.
In major decisions, what type of conversation brought this up?
It's always start with strategic fit or not. That is the most important things. Okay, and is it to make our core products better, or is it just a different categories. And then after all, we will talk about financial, whether we have whether the size is fit with us, and then it's going to be the risk.
So it sounds to me like it's not about the CEO bringing this investment opportunity to the board right then. Is you have some communication about the strategy first, and that strategy you form the same view that this is the right strategy. It's just that investment is a part of this strategy, so that's why it did not take so long to discuss.
I can only add, if it's a significant investment, then I would immediately, as soon as I know about it means as soon as I feel I'm going to bid for it, I will talk to Morathin. Very basic, because I may not have enough information, but I'll sort of alert him that this is something important and I will have to come to you. And then before we seek final approval, we'll probably meet at least 3 times with the board.
Okay.
So depending on the size.
Sure.
It will be rare for us to go to the board first time seeking an approval, even for the smallest ones. Normally we'll update the board once and seek approval in the next board meeting. But for larger ones, we'll add a meeting or 2.
So
that give time to the directors to digest it.
Right. Can you share us examples in the topics of shifting goals towards sustainability? What type of conversation at that time?
So one of the directors, the director who came from a multinational company, he joined our board 3 years ago. And since he came on the board, he's been nudging us, nudging the management, that he doesn't see enough sustainability goals. He also helped us to rewrite our charter, our vision, mission, and values. Not intrinsically. Intrinsically, it's the same thing that we wrote 30 years ago. He just fine-tuned it, made it shorter, keeping the essence the same. So I'm talking about Rusty.
Yeah, Rusty.
So Rusty is quite passionate about those things, and then he wanted to add value to the board. He wanted to add value to the management. He didn't want to be,
That sounds good.
yeah. He didn't want to. He wanted to add value. So he did push me. and
He
it was
is
good.
one of an active director.
What would how would he make you as a CEO accountable for sustainability? Would it be in your KPI? How does he or the board, the whole board, make you accountable for sustainability?
Yeah. So we have the KPIs. One of my KPIs is on the sustainability. So basically we have KPIs for I think 5 senior management, which gets shared with the board. So my KPI, one of the items on the KPI would be that. So I don't have many performance KPIs. Most of my KPIs are related to longer term goals.
Okay.
My managers, they have shorter term KPIs as well.
Okay.
Short, medium and long term.
And what is your expectation from the Chief Sustainability Officer? What is his KPI?
His KPI is to make it the strategy, the roadmap towards zero carbon footprint, carbon neutrality.
Okay.
That's a larger KPI. I'm asking him, tell me, what is your aim? You want to make it by 2050, 2040, 2060? Start from the date, the furthest date, and then make your roadmap coming back to today.
Okay.
Okay.
So have a end in mind. So that's his KPI.
Sure.
So, and what would imply that the board is successful? What is the key successful measurement?
It translates into the P&L of the company and the quality of the company. For us, nothing can can tell whether we have done a good job or not, other than see the result in the company itself.
But is that result is about sustainability, which takes 5 years or more?
No, our sustainability initiative probably has a long term and short term, but we keep improving. We have a target, and the sustainability target is keep improving.
Yeah, our current target is 2025. So that's a very measurable target. In 2025, we will make so much recycled content. We'll reduce our energy intensity by 10%. We'll reduce our water consumption by 5%. So these are written down targets. So those are measurable.
And this number we present in the board meeting as well.
So twice a year, the sustainability team comes and presents to the board.
What kind of unique character of this board, or what unique skills set that you want to be more
Eager to learn.
something like that?
You see, we are a global company, as we have said many times now. So we have to invest in the new director. And the new director has to give us enough time to get involved with the company, with the people, with the business, so that when he's sitting in the meeting, in the formal meeting, and something comes up in front of him or her, he or she can understand the relevance. So obviously, we need again, like we look in management, the capability. In our independent director, we look at the same capability. On top of that, we look at reputation. So for me, for the family, is do we have very reputable directors or not? The point is we are not looking for rubber stamp directors. If I had one rubber stamp director, all my 8 independent directors will resign. So the reputation is very important. And nowadays, on the independent directors, the responsibility is much higher than years ago.
Okay.
So as for Mauritian to be a director on IVL, it's a huge responsibility on him. If something goes wrong at IVL, he is held accountable as well.
So what is the key element of good relationship or a successful collaboration between board of directors and CEO?
Openness, transparency, I think the transparency that eventually builds trust and give them enough room to discuss amongst themselves and let them suggest things, and when they suggest things, and implement them. So it's not only, we cannot ignore, they don't ignore the management, and we cannot ignore the directors.
As you mentioned about CEO succession planning as a part of the journey for the IPL, what character that you look for the CEO that might be different from current CEO, or is it going to be the same? What kind of character? What kind of skill and character that you are looking for?
This is a homegrown CEO. Yeah. Started from nothing and learned step by step. But the next leader who replaces me, he has to be a real leader. A real leader means he has to carry so many responsibilities as a leader, motivational leader, merit-based leader, leaving room for his management to do the stuff, employing the right people. Right people means qualified people, not to employ his cousins and brothers and sisters. So if you're going to be a professional CEO, then you have to do it professionally with a long-term objective, and you have to allow your rest of your team to perform and give them credit for it. So a family leader is different, homegrown.
From your experience, if you have to add something or suggest something to a new leader, what would it be? From your experience from homegrown
CEO to a new leader?
Have patience. Step by step. Don't be impatient. Don't compare yourself to somebody who you are not today.
Okay.
Study, work hard, and graduate to that person.
Okay. Be yourself.
Be yourself. And okay, if you find some skills that you should have, then go and study it, learn it.
What about you? What's your advice to you as a Kunmarati, and what is your advice to young leaders?
I think I share his view. I think he's right. You have to work hard. You have to work very hard and keep learning.
Half the books over there are presented by Mauritian to me.
And how many have you read?
I glanced through it. You know, he has a unique skill. He reads a book just flipping pages.
Okay.
Yeah, because he sort of takes a photograph of a page and he scans it. And
Yeah.
the keywords he captures.
I hate that because I cannot do that.
He's very good at that. I'm not as good as him, but I can also glance through a book.